International Affairs with a concentration in politics. I'm going to try to do my best to not cough through this whole thing. So when I was starting, I had actually applied to this program with a gun control policy and decided that I would rather do education instead. And so I decided to study the transferability of credits within the University of Maine system, which is something that pertains to all of us here. And so imagine, you're a student and you're second year of college and you're looking to transfer from one of our schools to another. And you sit down and you start talking to your advisor, and then you find out, well, they're not really sure which of your credits are going to transfer. And so then you start worrying, well, do I have to retake my courses? Am I going to have to spend an extra year in school? And what is that going to mean for me financially? So why should we care about transferability? Well, we should care because it affects all of our students and our faculty members that work with our students on a day-to-day basis. So as previous research has found, transferring is almost always an economic choice for students. And many students are often concerned about, if they will have to repeat courses, either because they don't get credit for a course that they should be getting credit for, or because they do get credit for something that they aren't necessarily actually taking the same course material, and so then they end up unprepared for the following course. And so that's why it's important to evaluate prerequisites. So in working to develop a comprehensive transferability plan, the University of Maine system has embarked on the One University program. So One University was begun about 5 years ago, so a 2005 law, which some of our members here were involved in, ensured that all 7 of our campuses would stay open and they wouldn't move. And so that ensures that we have access to higher education throughout the state, which is very important. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. So because of this law, it's instead of, you can't actually consolidate into one university, obviously, nor does anyone really want to. But part of it is they decided to undertake academic integration. A big part of One University was aimed at reducing redundancies, both in administrative work, which they have done a significant amount of work on, and also reducing redundancies in course offerings and program offerings at the different universities. As they were undergoing academic integration, they began to develop program integration teams. So as I began my research, I was initially just looking at transferability in the system. And so I decided to focus on 3 different areas: chemistry, psychology, and English. I chose those 3 for the structures of their programs. Chemistry is very hierarchical. You take your intro to chem, then your OChem, and so on. Psychology has several different prerequisites at different levels, but it is a little more freeform in terms of which courses you can take. English is pretty much you get your couple of basic prerequisites, and then it's very freeform through, the student gets to choose what it is they're going to study, whether they want to do literature focused, creative writing, whatever it is. And so I was initially looking mostly at transferring from one of the other schools into the flagship campus here. And so because of that, I chose to interview faculty members that dealt directly with transferring at UMaine, and then UMF, USM, and UMA. I didn't look at the other smaller schools just because the numbers of transfers into here were in the single digits for the fall, whereas the other schools had anywhere from 50 to a couple hundred. And so as I began to speak to these faculty members that are, they're the ones that evaluate courses, and when they are looking at transferability, they look at things like the syllabus, they look at what is being taught, they look at the qualifications of the professor, and if they have it available, they look at course outcomes, which is sort of difficult to determine in a lot of cases. But as I began to talk to them, I realized that pretty much every single one of them was involved directly in one of the program integration teams under One University. And so this became apparent that it was an important part of transferability, because these program integration teams began to work on looking at how to transfer things. And so what they found was that there's a few big problems with developing a comprehensive transferability plan. One is just the structure of program integration teams itself. A lot of people that were involved in it didn't actually know what it was they were supposed to be doing. There was very little communication going into it, and so it was kind of controversial, and a lot of people were just plain confused. So the faculty members began to work, and even though they were confused, they tried to come up with some plans as to how they could make things more streamlined and help students to transfer, help students at each of their own campuses achieve what is the goal, which is graduation. And so so communication was the biggest concern. And as they worked towards it, they basically sort of got the gen eds pretty much covered. They figured out a pretty simple way to consolidate them and to have a transfer plan in place for most of the intro-level courses. What became a problem was the mid-level courses, and a large part of this was the fact that each of the programs tends to have its own specialties and its own strengths. Think clinical psychology at one place, or research psychology at another, or creative writing in English and literature. So because of all of the interviews that I did and all the people that I talked to and the concerns that were raised, there was still a lot of optimism there. I think a lot of people are excited about the prospects of being able to work more closely with our partners at the other schools. I mean, like this program here is fantastic. We got to work with all these other students and the faculty at the other programs, and it really, broadens the experience, and I think is a really beneficial thing, and I think most people agree with that. So I did come up with 5 different recommendations, which I'll see if I can get out. So the first one would be to conduct a system-wide academic outcome study for some mid and upper level courses, because that can just help to evaluate the material that is actually being taught, so we can have a better understanding of what it is that the students are supposed to be learning at each of these programs. The second would be to evaluate the strengths of each program by having the faculty put together a detailed summary of what their program focuses on. So, like I said, most of the programs have entirely different focuses. So attempting to, integrate these programs might become a problem because they're simply not the same. And so the third recommendation is to make sure that the system sorts out program integration before the campuses are required to establish a transferability agreement, because there's no sense in having the people that work on this put in the time and effort to establish a system that may be changed as they go into developing either new programs that are, if they eliminate courses or change them. And then also to have a design for academic integration that is created with both faculty and administrators, so that there's more structure and there's more clarity to what it is they're supposed to be doing. And my last recommendation is to make monthly public reports available from the system about one university in general. While they still do this, a lot of it has been pretty vague and pretty unclear for a lot of people, and the entire process has been pretty unnerving. In 2014, there were a bunch of cuts down at USM particularly, and it left a lot of people kind of scared for their jobs. This is an issue of people's livelihoods, and so it has become quite the topic. And so those are my 5 recommendations, and I would like to hear people's questions.
Thank you very much.